In 1948, the Universal Declaration on Human Rights declared education a basic human right for all. However, this has not been recognized by all states, especially when it comes to gender. Due to religious, cultural, and economic norms, girls have been subjected to inequality in education around the world. We can see a correlation between the boy-to-girl gender ratio receiving a basic education and overall GDP per capita of a country. When we compare the three most gender unequal countries, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Nigeria, to countries with the most gender equal education, Norway, Finland, and Iceland, we can see how dramatically their GDP relate. The GDP per capita of these gender equal nations stays consistently high, where the unequal countries face dramatic fluctuations in GDP. In March of 1979, the PDPA took control of Afghanistan and implemented liberal Marxist-Leninist ideals, replacing traditional laws with secular ones. The dramatic increase in the ratio around 1982 reveals reforms allowing women to receive an education. However, from 1996 to 2001, the Islamic fundamentalist Taliban took over. According to the Human Rights Watch, this group strictly upheld Sharia law, oppressing women, which included the denial of the right to work and a near ban on girls' access to education. As you can see from the graph, in 1996, the ratio dropped dramatically, signaling the Taliban's takeover. Since the Taliban was ousted in 2001, we've seen an increasing number of girls in school, and as time has progressed, the GDP per capita has been slowly increasing as well, showing that as a nation works to improve the entire population's education, which is an investment in human capital, the overall nation improves as a whole. To Afghanistan, women in Pakistan face opposition from radical Islamist groups. Aside from girls being discouraged from education, groups such as Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan threaten and attack girls attempting to go to school. Today, Zaman commented that gender inequality in education in Pakistan prevents Muslim women from fully participating in the social, economic, political, and spiritual life of the country. It harms society by reducing national and international competitiveness. This further reveals how a country's overall effectiveness and success is depleted by the lack of equality between the genders. Looking at the graph, we see that Pakistan has a more stable growth in the number of girls receiving education, revealing a higher GDP per capita than Afghanistan. Similar to Afghanistan, the northern part of Nigeria is ruled by Sharia law, resulting in a lack of women's rights. According to the Social Institutions and Gender Index, under Sharia and customary law, husbands can divorce their wives for dissatisfaction over her attempts to gain education. This explicitly reveals how difficult it may be for a woman to get an education. The correlation between a lack of education available to women and the country's overall well-being is revealed by the Daily Independent, where women have access to secondary education, good jobs, land, and other assets, national growth and stability are enhanced. Again, looking at the graph, we see how Nigeria's ratio of boys to girls is higher than Afghanistan and Pakistan, but the instability and inconsistency correlates to the rising and falling of GDP per capita.
According to the Global Gender Gap Index of 2014, Iceland, Finland, and Norway all have a 1-to-1 ratio of girls to boys in primary and secondary education. The current access to education in these countries is represented by this ratio. With education being a critical primer for the job market, these countries also boast high percentages of females in the workplace, which may ultimately contribute to a higher GDP per capita. Since the formation of the Gender Equality Council and the passage of the Gender Equality Act, which outlawed gender discrimination in Iceland in 1976, Iceland has maintained itself as one of the most gender equal countries. The act outlawed inequity in both schools and the workplace. The country has been so gender-friendly that in 1980, Iceland even elected its first female president, Vigdis Finnbogadóttir, who held office until 1996. As you can see, there is a clear increase in Iceland's GDP following the passage of the act in 1996. Finland has been a pioneer for gender equality since 1906, when the country became the first in the world to give women the right to vote and stand for election. Since then, Finland has been in practice of maintaining gender equality in all institutions. Education is compulsory for Finnish children starting at age 7 until 9 years of schooling. Education is not only mandated and free, but Finnish children also receive a free meal at school, which promotes attendance. Because of its commitment to investments in education, Finland has become one of the world's richest nations and maintains a high GDP. Lastly, Norway also has an equal ratio of boys to girls in primary and secondary education. Since 1996, primary and secondary school has been required for Norwegian children ages 6 to 16. While education has been compulsory in Norway for over 100 years, it was not until 1997 that a full 10 years of schooling was required. As you can see on this Gapminder graph, the ratio climbs steeply after 1997, and the GDP continues to increase accordingly.
Overall, this Gapminder data shows a correlation between the ratio of girls to boys in primary and secondary education and GDP per capita. As in the case for Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Nigeria, a low ratio in education correlated to a lower GDP. For Iceland, Finland, and Norway, the 1-to-1 ratio of girls to boys in primary and secondary education correlated to a higher GDP.